All right, let's talk about three of the smallest, but honestly, mightiest words in the English language. A, an, and the. You know, if you've ever felt just a little bit lost trying to figure out which one to use, you are definitely not alone. But don't worry, we're going to break it all down with a really simple but powerful method.
I mean, it's such a common headache, right? Especially if English isn't your first language. When do you use the? When is it a? And sometimes you don't use anything at all. It can feel like you're trying to navigate a total minefield of confusing rules.
Okay, let's just dive right in with a quick test. Take a look at this sentence. What do you think goes in the blank here? Is it a, the, or nothing? Well, the answer is the. Now, if you weren't 100% sure about that, seriously, don't worry. By the end of this, you're going to feel way more confident.
So, what's the big secret? Well, the great news is it's not about memorizing dozens and dozens of exceptions. It's really about shifting your perspective, looking at it through a much simpler lens. We're going to call it the core reference rule.
And this is it. This is the key idea right here. Forget the complex grammar books for a second. Every time you're about to use a noun, all you have to do is ask yourself one simple question. And believe me, your answer is going to guide you to the right article almost every single time.
And your answer is always going to fall into one of these three categories. First is your reference general. Like, are you talking about all of them everywhere? Second, is it indefinite, meaning just one of many, doesn't matter which one. Or third, is it specific, like you mean exactly this one. Let's break them down.
All right, first up, let's tackle the difference between a general reference and that one of many indefinite one. Because honestly, this is where a lot of the confusion happens right at the start.
So when we're talking about things in a big, general sense, the article we use, or don't use, is key. For plural nouns, like engineers design reactors, we don't use an article because we mean engineers in general. Same for uncountable stuff like knowledge is essential, we're talking about all knowledge. But, and this is a cool little trick, if you want to talk about a whole group by using just one example, you actually use a. So a catalyst is used means any catalyst, representing the whole category. Okay, so how is an indefinite reference different? Well, it's pretty similar, but here's the key. We're talking about a single thing, one single instance out of a whole bunch of them. Like when you say, hey, call an engineer, you don't mean a specific engineer, you just mean anyone will do. That's the job of a and an, to pick one out of the crowd without being specific.
All right, so we've covered the general stuff and the one of many situations. Now it's time to get specific. And this, of course, is where our friend the comes into play.
Now, a really, really important rule for using the is actually about what comes before it. Think about it. When you bring a new thing into the conversation for the very first time, you have to introduce it with a or an. It's like you're saying, hey, I'm about to talk about a reactor. It's new to this conversation. Listen up.
And here's the payoff. Once you've made that introduction, every single time you mention it after that, you use the. Why? Because now it's not just any old reactor anymore, it's the specific one we were just talking about. Your listener knows exactly which one you mean. That's a beautiful little system, really.
And, of course, you also use the when something is just, well, specific by its very nature. If there's only one of it in the world, or in the context, like the Pareto index. Or if it's the top of the list, a superlative, like the greatest challenge. Or if you literally use a word like soul to point it out. All of these automatically make it specific, so they get the. Okay, so now that we have that core reference rule in our back pocket, let's pivot to one of the biggest, trickiest areas in English, especially for technical writing: uncountable nouns. I'm telling you, this is where even really advanced speakers and writers can get tripped up.
So what exactly is an uncountable noun? It's actually pretty simple. It's just a noun that you can't, well, count individually. You can't have 3 waters or 5 equipments. You just can't put a number in front of them. Instead, we treat them as one big concept, like a single lump of stuff. Let's look at a real-world mistake, pulled straight from a published paper. Informations on the subject. Now, I get it. In many other languages, this would be totally normal. But in English, seeing informations with an S on the end is a huge red flag. And the fix is so simple, but it's absolutely crucial. Information is always singular. It never, ever gets an S. And that means it always takes a singular verb like was, not were. Honestly, getting this one thing right will instantly make your writing sound more professional. Okay, here's another super common trap. also found in academic writing, the word equipment. It feels plural, doesn't it? I mean, you can have a lab full of different machines and tools, but the word itself, equipment, is uncountable in English.
So, the correct way to handle it is to treat equipment as this single collective thing. If you absolutely have to count the individual items, you need to add a phrase like many pieces of equipment. But if you just mean more of it, it's simply additional equipment. No S, ever.
And you'll see the same pattern with other common words. You don't do several researches, you do several studies. And software is another big one. It's uncountable. You can't develop a software any more than you can drink a water. It's just software. The only time you might see a software is when people are talking about a specific application, like a software program. But even then, it's better to be precise.
Okay, now for something really subtle but so important. It's amazing how one tiny little article can completely change the meaning of a sentence. If you say you have few examples, it sounds negative, like you don't have enough. It employs a problem. But just add the article a few examples, and suddenly the tone becomes neutral or even positive. It means you have some, and it's probably enough.
Here's another one of those subtle but really powerful differences. If you say several risk factors, that's a pretty general statement. You're just talking about some factors out there. But if you say several of the risk factors, that tiny word the changes everything. It tells your audience, hey, you know that specific list of factors we've been talking about? I mean some of those. It's a tiny change that adds a massive amount of clarity.
Okay, so let's wrap this all up. What are the key takeaways here? First, stop trying to memorize a million rules. Instead, just ask yourself that one question. Is my reference general, indefinite, or specific? And second, always be on the lookout for those tricky, uncountable nouns like information and equipment.
And at the end of the day, this is why it really matters. Getting your articles right isn't just about passing some grammar test. It's about communicating your ideas clearly, with precision, and with confidence. It's one of those little things that instantly elevates your English, making you sound more professional and just more natural.
And that brings us to the end. Look, mastering articles is a journey, for sure, but hopefully this simple framework gives you a much clearer path forward. And it kind of leaves me wondering, besides a, an, and the, what other tiny little words in English do you think cause the biggest misunderstandings? Definitely something to think about.